With us going into a 21-day lockdown, events are being cancelled or postponed. What are your rights as a consumer? Let's find out from consumer writer Wendy Knowler. Wendy, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. So I believe your mailbox is actually full with questions. What are people asking you?
Yeah, most of the queries I'm getting, Shahana, are about cancellations of weddings, of accommodation. Those two are big ones. April is South Africa's second biggest wedding month, so you can imagine my inbox is full of very unromantic emails about that. And the question is, can I get a refund? And it's a tricky one because the rule book on this has pretty much been thrown out of the window with COVID-19. Nobody's putting out, except for the Ombudsman, for the Consumer Goods and Services Ombudsman, there's been no directive from any other consumer body in the country that I know of around this issue of consumer rights and cancellations of these kinds of bookings. So the Ombudsman said these are extraordinary times. Legally, strictly legally, the Consumer Protection Act does entitle consumers who are forced to cancel through no reason of their own for this kind of thing to a full refund. But she's saying these are extraordinary times, and let's rather, both of us, in this spirit of we are in this together, both parties come together and negotiate. So if you can possibly postpone the booking, do so in the interests of everybody, the business not going under, that kind of thing. Because these businesses are not only being asked to refund, they know for the foreseeable future they're not getting any new business either. So it's completely catastrophic. But of course, a lot of consumers can't postpone for some reason or the other, and they're saying, I want my cancellation, I want my full refund, and that's causing a lot of problems.
Yeah, so let's talk about the rights when people have when it comes to events being cancelled outside of weddings, etc. Should people actually get a full refund?
As I said, technically, legally, in terms of the CPA, the answer is yes. There's a section in CPA that says normally if you cancel, right, the company can't have a blanket no refund policy. This is before COVID-19. There has to be a sliding scale. So if you cancel long before, say if it's a wedding or whatever, you should get quite a lot back of your deposit. If it's at the last minute, nothing. But there's a sliding scale. The exception is if you are ill, if you are hospitalized or you die, there's a death, you must get a full refund. And Ombudsman Makgata Mpahlele is saying what's happened in this country in terms of her interpretation is actually like all of us being hospitalized, being ill, on top of the ones that actually are hospitalized. And in such cases, we're entitled to a full refund. But she's saying, you know, try not to push that. These are extraordinary circumstances. If the event is postponed, then if you're offered a postponement, so in the case of a marathon or something like that, accept that rather than pushing for a refund. So it's a completely uncharted territory here, Shahan. It's calling on all of us to step out of what's normal and legal and the usual T's and C's and work together to come up with something that doesn't enrich or penalize either party too much.
Yeah, and I'm guessing the same method would apply to cancellations at lodges, hotels, B&Bs, etc. Because of a travel ban, it's not really in the hands of any traveler. They can't travel. So how do we reach a middle ground, though, Wendy? Because you have consumers on one hand and businesses on the other, both sides trying to protect their own interests. Who decides in the end?
Well, this is the interesting thing. So you can lodge a complaint with the Ombudsman or Consumer Goods and Services Ombud, but if they can't get both parties to agree on what they suggest, then they have no choice. Their suggestion is not binding. It then has to be kicked up to the National Consumer Commission that then needs to take a decision whether it's going to go to the tribunal or not. And I can tell you, given these numbers, the NCC is not one for taking up individual cases much at the best of times. I can't see that happening. So practically, I think the best we consumers can do is to be fair, to try and come to a fair settlement with the service provider, one that we each, it's not their fault either, and they are facing going out of business, many of them in the coming months. So for each party to give a little bit and hopefully come to an arrangement that works for both. As I say, postponement is the best option, but it comes with its complications. For example, all the weddings being postponed now until 2021. I've heard of suppliers saying, well, okay, we'll give you a new date in 2021, but it's not going to be a weekend. You have to take it during the week. And they're saying, but I didn't pay a week date. I paid a weekend date, which is far higher. So all these sorts of things still have to be worked out. And I would say the only advice I would say is we're pretty much on our own here, and play nice, be fair, both parties.
All right, thanks for the insight. Appreciate it. Consumer writer Wendy Knowler.